cheers to Sony. I have decided, since this is a serious matter, I've decided to come out here and touch grass to show my commitment to this topic. And the topic is that Sony has decided to discontinue disc production. The levels of irony here are astounding, mainly being that Sony is the main company that brought discs into this world, and apparently they're going to take them out of it. Not only, I know it's definitely production for video games, but it makes me wonder about movies, DVDs, Blu-rays, but because that's what they do, that's what they're known for. The entire reason the PlayStation exists is because Nintendo went to them for a possible attach-on disc-based drive that would connect to one of their consoles, and they said, yeah, you know what, this is too much work, but thanks for the work anyway. And then Sony just released their own system called the PlayStation, and that's history. I mean, this is really the end. And what's astounding and interesting is that there was a whole group of people who just are either fallaciously or truly not understanding the problem, the point of having a physical game. It's very much based around console culture, that you have a physical device that is single purpose, and you have a disc which also has a single purpose, which is to preserve and run that game. Now, discs can get scratched, discs break down, and I've seen people who take horrible care of their discs, and I'm not one of those people, but the people who did do that encouraged me or galvanized me to take good care of my games, because one, well, they're worth a lot now, and two, they're just amazing experiences. So, but this is it. This is the end of everything. If you don't physically own anything, we're going to Klaus Schwab land, where you'll own everything. You'll own nothing and be happy. And I guess this is just another nail in that coffin, along with GTA 6 announcing they're going to be discless, regardless of console. Xbox announcing Project Helix is going to be no disc drive, which is kind of a precedent set by the optional digital-only version, which was a bit cheaper. And digital distribution is the way to things are going. So I guess Steam won again, despite the fact, ironically, they're trying to break into the console market now, and they're I would say the Steam Deck was a success, but their Steam Machine, with its underpowered hardware and its overpriced price tag, really don't make that compelling. So one of the issues with console gaming, one of the kind of pillars, is that one, you have a physical thing to represent the experience. Playing games on Steam is fine, not that anyone actually plays their Steam library fully, but you play a game, you have an experience, and then eventually you want to, if it's a good game, it's something you actually like, you want to purchase merchandise to remind you of that experience. It might be artwork, it might be clothing, posters, whatever, but you have something that's a physical representation of the experience, which is the ideal way to experience things, right? Because if it means something to you, you find a way to represent it. And what higher status is there than having the physical thing that actually performs the game? It's like it has a function, which is to be the thing. It's like the difference between having a Kindle and having a leather-bound book of something. Of course, one is much more practical than the other. With you can store. Well, there's no storage, right? The Steam library is all digital, it's nicely ordered. And that's kind of sort of the issue, is that my biggest concern with PC gaming for a long time, and I do PC and console, is that you don't own anything. And at the same time, you own everything, because yahar, the high seas. But I just didn't really like piracy, because, well, it felt like I was cheating, and I didn't feel like I wanted to cheat. I just wanted to have what the intended experience was. And looking at what distribution website there would be to do that, and that's the thing, I always hated PC physical releases, because there was a format for a little bit in the 90s, but no one could agree on a universal format. Then you'd have special collector's edition, which would stick out, and so they just weren't stackable. They're very bulky, And I just never really liked them. And plus with PCs now, they don't even have disk drives. You have to buy them separately, which is crazy. For example, I wanted to play Warcraft 3, the original, and I don't want to play Reforged, and there's literally no place to get it. And I had to go to a friend to lend me their disc so that I could do that. And that is just, I don't know, that's just the world we live in, where you could physically own the game, but you still can't use it. Thank God for those detachable, disk drives, which do take up a lot of space, I'll admit, but those are necessary for, proper gaming, I would say. And the problem with PC too is that it's always upgrading and changing. So it's not like you're holding onto your PC from 20 years ago. You throw that out and get an upgrade. With consoles, that's not really the mentality you should have. Everyone still holds onto their SNES. It's designed for a single purpose. This cartridge, this disc, this system, no interference or speculation about if it works or not. It just works because it's designed to work. It's predestined to work. With PC though, even with Steam, I've had weird instances where I bought really old games like Thief, or what else did I have a problem with? Like not that old, but like Deus Ex: Invisible War, and like I bought them and they just didn't boot. In Thief, I think Deus Ex had played the opening cutscene and then crashed in the middle of it and just wouldn't play. There's also DOSBox games which work reasonably well. God help you have to Alt F4 out of that because that's going to resize everything. And then you finally have, in Thief 2, it goes to the main menu. I click new game and it just crashes. And it's just like, okay, I can't be bothered to find a mod or a fix for this. Like I just want it to work. I don't have the time or the interest really to troubleshoot something. I'll do that if I want to install a mod, but there's no upside to just figuring around with something to get a 20-year-old game to work. If it's on Steam, it should work, and unfortunately that can't be said for everything. But for the popular stuff, people have passion. But I guess Thief 2 doesn't get that, reception, or maybe there's something wrong with your system. See, here's the problem, right? That the hardware, in the PC's case, the hardware is designed for the software. And in the console's case, it's the other way around. The software is designed for the hardware. As a developer, you know exactly what specs it has, what limitations it has, and you have a toolbox. You have a ceiling, basically, and a box to work in. And some of the really ambitious studios try to push the limit of the system to its potential. An example would be, I think, the original Star Fox, which on 2D, is 16-bit software. It was able to render full like spectrographic 3D images. Like it's insane watching that game and being like, how is this even possible? So that was always technically impressive. That game, it was kind of like a technical showcase for Nintendo, if anything, for a long time. And so with PC, it's like, well, I have a power horse. This thing is so powerful, it should run everything. And ideally it should, but the problem is the design is backwards. It's yes, the benefit of PC is that you have access to everything, but it doesn't do anything necessarily well. Like it'll run, like I said, 99% of everything except for some obscure game that just is too old and crashes. The issue is that, the design of the game, depending, if it was a game designed for the N64 and you're playing on PC via emulator, that's morally fine. But the actual design and execution, there's a bit of a divide between you and the system. It's like having a CRT, it's like having the right controller. You're a bit divorced from the intended experience. And this is where I think there's a deeper philosophical debate about the video game being both a technology and an art. Because I think there's just this mental divide wherever I've gone, where some people, we're both gamers, we love the same games, we play on the same systems or on PC, and they just have a completely different viewpoint where it's like, I want, the next series of games to have better graphics, better FPS, better, statistically number go up, style thing. You know, I wanted to have more and optimization. There are guys who just, their job is just to optimize. They just find a way to make a game run faster, better, whatever, and that's fine and that's great. But you know, if I try to say, well, I want to play the game in its original format, that's where they really get curious about me, because it's like, you know, why would you ever want that? Because to them, playing something in its original format means all the bugs and glitches and the way it originally came out. And it's like, yeah, that's what I want, because the designer, the dev team had a vision, and this is like, they made compromises. They had a deadline, they had limitations, and this is the game they made. And this is culturally in the zeitgeist. This is what everyone played and experienced. And that's why there's another barrier where people who play a remake of an older game and they're told, yeah, this is pretty good, but the original is better. I would cite Resident Evil 2 is really kind of frustrating, because you think, well, how can this old thing that looks like an antique that's more authentic actually be better in some capacity? And so the issue there essentially is that, and for the record, by the way, I actually played Resident Evil 2 Remake before the original, and I played the original a bit before Resident Evil 9 came out, and I love the original far more than the remake. I'll put that on record, because I think in that case it really boils down to tone and setting. And the really crazy thing that I noticed after a while is that the Resident Evil Remake series is very much inspired, I would say, partially by newer media. So The Walking Dead and The Last of Us, which are just very darker in tone. And I was shocked to play the original, and just the energy in the setting was just very, very different, and for me, like, a lot more enjoyable. It was definitely differently paced, with a completely different design choice with tank controls, and it was just an overall better experience. It felt better paced. And anyway, I could go on about that, but when you tell people that something that is older is better or more authentic or more genuine, it's really the science side, the technology side of people say, well, you're crazy. That doesn't make any sense. This new game has better graphics, better performance, better statistics. So how can you, like, this should overwrite or replace the experience, essentially. And so that's basically what is important to me, because basically that is something that I care about. Technologically speaking, it is superior, it is better, but there's something about authenticity and a more robust way at looking at an experience. And that artistic side it's essentially about taking a piece of art or technology and sort of accepting it for all its flaws, and for the fact that its flaws actually make it interesting and worth experiencing. All the frustrations that people had back in the day are something that I feel like I can share when I go and play this. There are a few exceptions I would be entitled to give to that. First would be Tomb Raider, because like the game where you have to press a button to hold a ledge, and just like it's insanely difficult. So I don't belittle someone for skipping it, essentially. But in the same case, you do kind of miss out on what it was like, that this thing was popular or was groundbreaking for a reason. And to kind of go back in time to that point in time is kind of part of the experience. And that is kind of lost. So that artistic, authentic innovation is what the technologists or the science side don't get. Another example would be like the Mona Lisa. If someone said, oh, I repainted the Mona Lisa and upscaled her in 4K, so there's no reason to go to the Louvre, people look at you like you're crazy. But when we do this with video games, it's the opposite. And it's a lot of gaslighting, it's a lot of industry pressure, shilling, etc. And you know, it's unfortunate, but it's understandable to an extent. And so the fact that physical discs are going away is just another aspect of that core experience being filtered or deflowered or taken away from the core experience. Like, you would have to go to a store, pick up a game, you'd read the manual. Grand Theft Auto is a great example, because for all of their games, they used to include maps inside the game cartridge, or the game case rather. So you would have a whole map of the city, and that would kind of hype you up, and you'd never use it, but it was always something really cool to have. And you'd memorize the routes throughout the city and stuff like that, which I thought was really, really cool. And so when we lose that aspect of the experience, you know, there's an artistic value that's lost, but also ownership. But for me personally, it's more about ownership, because when we're talking about owning something, holding on to something, having it be yours, that's always been the biggest kind of looming sword of Damocles over PC gaming, because you don't technically own anything. One day, God help us if Gabe ever passes away, someone else gets in there. It could be a dark day where Steam is like, oh, we're going to change our prices, or we can change, the configuration of the game, because they have total control over it. And that's essentially what Sony wants, and that's what they're going towards. And fortunately, as long as Steam is around and it's benevolent, it'll be at least an era or a time in gaming where that's going to be the case. But it'd be foolish to think that that's going to last forever, essentially. So going forward, I don't think it's really wise to kind of embrace that side of digital ownership, because it's an oxymoron. And in the case where it does kind of implode, essentially what's going to happen is that you'll have to, I guess, revert to piracy. If I lose my entire Steam library, I'm not rebuying all of that on another platform. It's become essentially the JP Morgan, in the sense that it's too big to fail, essentially. And so I think some other people feel the same way. There is GOG, which is fine, but it's like, if Steam is the normal storefront, GOG is the guy with the stall outside, haggling his wares, and it's a bit more sussy. You're getting like executables and whatever directly, and then piracy is like the guy in the alley, where it's like, yeah, you'll get a free game, but you might get something else as well, which is more than you bargained for sure. Anyway, I think the backlash, I don't know if they'll ever reinstate it. Honestly, like, Sony is making kind of a big move, and it's kind of their bread and butter. And really, if they decide to go down this route, I just only see it harming them in the long run. Because if there's a digital-only PS6, why would I own it? Why would I go to it? Technically it's optimized for its games, but if I have a PC that also is optimized for pretty much everything, and most games that people play are not newer games because they're just getting worse and worse, then I just don't see myself, buying one. It's really like it's over, and it's more of a matter of interest. If Elden Ring 2 comes out, will I play it on my PlayStation versus a PC? Like, I don't understand what the thought process is going through this transition, where they're just decoupling everything that gives them an advantage in the marketplace. Otherwise, it's just very stupid, and Steam will just own everything. And the Steam machine is going to become the de facto way once it comes down in price in maybe 5 years, because it's just bringing your PC games to the living room. That's all it's really doing. Honestly, to me, that's a maybe $300 value, not a $1,500 one. But I understand brand prices are what they are. But even that being said, like, I still feel it's grossly overpriced for what people are going to practically use it for. And they say, oh, it's a brand new console, and technically it has exclusives, because they're PC exclusives, and it's the de facto way to experience gaming. But if Sony and Microsoft don't figure something out, Microsoft I don't care about, because they've already made their bed, where they're like, oh, well, Halo's multi-platform now, Gears was going to be multi-platform. So it's like, what do you even have? What do you even do? And I have this with the Xbox One, where it's like, I don't really see myself playing any of these things. And then it's just a preference almost over the culture and the controller. Like, for example, I play racing games and shooting games on Xbox. I play JRPGs and like weird discovery games on PlayStation. That's the divide. And more so Western games on Xbox. And then Japanese on PlayStation, and Nintendo's Nintendo. So yeah, this is basically the end of the foreseeable future, the end of gaming, the end of my gaming, honestly. I guess maybe, I don't want to say I'm growing out of it, but I'm definitely seeing that it is making itself obsolete and super expensive and incredibly cumbersome and difficult to operate in this hobby. It's becoming just ridiculous. And You can blame the environment, the AI chip shortage, Sam Altman, et cetera, but ultimately, these game companies are the ones setting the policies and the prices, and for the past decade, they have not been exactly consumer friendly. The AI thing did not start microtransactions, live service games, which is just, live service, just not to go off on a huge tangent, that's the idea of a forever game that no one ever leaves. And the only example of that is like Counter-Strike, or like an MMO. And they don't seem to understand that. They think they can do something less complicated and have it with greater longevity, and that just never seems to work. And with the kind of ousting of anything artistic or creative, I don't see them coming up with anything other than something super mechanical that acts as like some weird pseudo rug pull crypto market in the form of a video game. So, that's where it is, and that's the ultimate point, right? Owning nothing really means that everything is a service, everything is rented, Netflix, etc. Your game collection, and it's another way just to control you. If you say something, if they want to use your social media to like ban you from gaming or something, that could be another thing. And then even your cloud saves, there's no upside to the consumer, or I'd argue even to the company, to go this way. Yeah, there's a lot of digital consumption, but it does not help them to go completely digital, because then they're competing with Steam, and Steam will crush them. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And further to that, on one hand, they're banning or removing licenses for for movies, and then other games, and there's also live service things like The Crew, and on the other hand, they're removing physical media. So it's like, hey, we're gonna like stop your option to do this, so while we're also doing more of this. So it's like cancel here, cancel there. So either they're trying to like organize a crash and rebuild it, and there's some great, reset, some big conspiracy going on, that, or the fact that they're just so stupid they don't know what to do, and everything's stupid now. AI prices are stupid, chips are stupid, expensive, etc. So this is basically me saying I can see the end of the tunnel. I used to see the end of the tunnel with my backlog, but now I see the end of the tunnel for the whole industry. So that being said, I'd say it's been a good run, and cheers.